Hello! Today we are talking about what I'm currently reading, what I've been reading, what I might read next, and the cats are here if you can't tell. It's kind of an interesting day because it's a snow day here in Nashville, and we're in the middle of this big winter storm, so it feels sort of like weirdly quiet, very cozy, just me, the kitties, the trains, and the ice and snow. So it's interesting. It's been a good reading month in terms of when I look at the numbers. It hasn't felt like a great reading month, and I've realized I thought I was feeling slumpy, which I think I was at the beginning of the month, but it's more that I've just not been in the mood to read as much. I've still read plenty, don't get me wrong. I've read I think like 11 books already, but I haven't been reading as much as I normally would when I sit down to read, and I'm actually glad because that tells me that like I am not forcing myself to read when I don't feel like it. You know what I mean? I've just not been in the mood to read. I found Bailey Sarian. Well, I'd watched her a little bit, but I've gone into a deep dive with her and her makeup murder mystery Mondays, whatever they're called. So I've been watching a lot of that. I've been working on the new podcast that's going to be coming out from me. So doing some research there. I've been doing a couple of other creative projects. So anyway, all that to say, I've been doing other things and that's okay. So I'm actually glad to feel like I'm still reading when I want to, but I'm not forcing myself to read when I don't want to. But that being said, I have still read a lot this month already, and most of it I've been enjoying pretty well when I look at the numbers here. Yeah, like I've already got 4 books that I would consider to be hits. Got a couple of disappointments. So yeah, okay, we'll just run through the ones that I know that I'm going to talk about more at the end of the month. I'll just run through those really quickly. So first of all, Every Last Fear from Alex Finlay. I actually really liked, almost like despite myself. And it's weird. Like there's something, for some reason I kind of didn't want to like this book because it is in some ways the kind of book in thrillers that I resent in terms of like sort of the authorial posture, but it's just so page turnery and satisfying. I do think that there's some problematic depictions of Mexican characters in this book, so I will give you that warning, but it's very like that was what I docked it for, but it is very page turnery and satisfying. I'm somewhere between a 4 and a 4.5, and for review copies I default to a higher setting, or a higher rating I should say. So 4.5 on this one. I'll talk about it more at the end of the month, but this was a very satisfying thriller for me. I would also say A Master of DJINN by P. Djeli Clark, I would definitely consider to be a hit. Now, this one is one where quality-wise, probably it should be closer to a 3.5 star, but I just love these characters so much, and I love his world so much, and I loved like kind of what it was doing. So I gave it a 4 star. I will say this is his first full-length novel, and you can, I think, feel that. So I'll talk about that more at the end of the month. I did this as a buddy read with my friend Ashley from Don't Have a Degree in Reading, and we had a really good time reading it together. We both really loved P. Djeli Clark, so I think we both ended up giving it a 4 star, but basically had the same critiques of it. So anyway, we both enjoyed it. It is good, but it kind of, I think it would have benefited from maybe being interconnected novellas. We'll talk about that more. To Love and to Loathe by Martha Waters, I gave a 4.5 star to, and I'll talk about that more at the end of the month. This one is a Regency rom-com, and when I read her first one last year, I was like, I really like her authorial voice. She reminds me a lot of Tessa Dare. If we could get a trope combo and sort of a plot that worked a little bit better, this would be amazing. And this one was. Like, I really, really enjoyed this particular one. I think if you liked the first one, this one I think is even better. No sophomore slump. Like, I think this is an improvement. And then The Burning Girls by C.J. Tudor, I really enjoyed. It is a contemporary mystery thriller. It does have a good chunk of like mystery to it. It's not just a thriller, which I really enjoy. And I do find it's just difficult to get those in as much of a kind of quantity as I would like. But this really did feel like a mystery thriller. It definitely has like a nice page turnery quality to it. It was my first CJ Tudor book, and it will definitely not be my last because I really enjoyed this just in terms of sort of the vibe of it. I did struggle with it being in the present tense. I would have liked it if it had not had that, just because of the point of views that it's doing. That bothered me a little bit. And then the actual like very, very last twist in the book wasn't my favorite, but I really enjoyed like going on the ride with it. And I'm very intrigued to have more from this author because sort of the sensibilities of the book were very much my thing. So it's basically like a kind of religious based mystery. It's a lady vicar and her daughter moved to this new parish because the previous vicar committed suicide. So she's like trying to figure out what happened with that. There's the whole like, is it a ghost? Because the church is said to be haunted by these children who were killed during the kind of like Protestant martyrdoms during Queen Mary's reign. So all in all, I just thought it was really just like kind of a fun mystery type thing. Oh, and actually I haven't put this in my spreadsheet, but I finished last night The Fire Next Time by James Baldwin. I'm gonna have to like, I just finished it so I need time to digest it, but it is absolutely beautiful. I read, what is it called? If Beale Street Could Talk from him, and I enjoyed it. I think I gave that one 4 stars, but I thought to myself, I like this style of writing, but I think I would like it even better if it was nonfiction rather than fiction. And oh my gosh, yes. Like his writing style in nonfiction is so wonderful. It is basically a letter, like I can't even talk about this letter to his nephew without getting emotional. So I'm not going to. I need some time to process it so I don't just like sit here and weep. But it is beautiful. And so there's that. And then there's this essay about his journey with religion as a Black man in America and how that kind of correlates into the civil rights movement when he was writing. So anyway, I'm getting emotional even thinking about this book. It is absolutely 5 stars. Definitely the best thing I've read so far this month. And like, I'd been saving it because I knew it was going to be really good. It was on my list of nonfiction classics for the year, and what a way to start that list because it is just so good. And it's very short, so it's easy to recommend to people. Anyway, before I get totally swept away in that, things I didn't like that I'll talk more about. Clouds of Witness by Dorothy Sayers. I gave it a 2.5 stars. It's the second in the Lord Peter Wimsey books, and I am getting pretty nervous about this Lord Peter project. The upside is that these are super easy to get through. Like, I can read them very easily in a night, so it's not a huge time commitment, but I've really not enjoyed either of the first 2 books, so I'm gonna have to do some soul searching about the future of this reading project. I'm definitely gonna read at least one more before I make a decision. Because I did like the second book better than the first book. I don't know. We'll see how it goes. And then the other thing that was a little bit disappointing to me, it's not bad, I gave it 3 stars, was The Conductors by Nicole Glover. I'll get more into it probably at the end of the month, but basically it's a first novel and I can really feel it being a first novel. There's lots of really cool elements to it that I enjoyed, but I just didn't think it really fully came together as successfully as I had hoped it would, because it is such a cool, it's basically like a murder mystery in the post-Civil War South with 2 Black main characters who are a couple, and they used to be conductors on the Underground Railroad, and now they solve murder mysteries. They also have magic, like that. It's a wicked cool setup, and it just wasn't, it didn't quite do it for me in the way I was hoping it might, but I'll talk more about that later. I guess that's some things that I can talk about. I read 2 more Ruby Dixons and I really enjoyed both of them. I am now fully caught up on both the Fireblood series. So I read the last entry that came out in that, and I think it's actually one of the best in the series. That was really good, and I'm very intrigued to see. I think it sounds like she doesn't have plans for a ton more books in that series, which I get. Like, I do think I mean, there's definitely room for her to have a few more at least. But anyway, all that to say, I think I see the kind of trajectory of where the series is going now, and I think it's really interesting, and I thought this particular entry was very interesting. So that was good. And then I read the latest Ice Planet Barbarians, and actually it sounds like it's the last one in the original Ice Planet series. There will be more Ice Home books, and it sounds like she's open to doing sort of like next generation Ice Planet Barbarians, which might be fun. But yeah, I don't know. I really love that series. So it was a very good entry, and it was a good kind of note to leave that the original crew with, but I want more. I really do just want more. So that was also a nice entry. And then I also read Love at First by Kate Clayborn. I really enjoy kind of the project that Kate Clayborn has going. She writes, her style is quite lovely. Like, she has sort of a writing style, what I would think of as sort of like book club fiction or like upmarket fiction, but it's with traditional romance plots, which just creates like a unique reading experience. I don't really think I've read things quite like what Kate Clayborn does. So this is like a traditional romance plot, sort of like a enemies to love kind of situation, where our main character Will heard a girl's voice when he was 16 when he was visiting his uncle, and he like instantly instantly fell in love with her. I honestly think that piece of the book was probably the least successful, but that's the setup. And then 16 years later, he comes back when his uncle dies and he's inherited the apartment, and the girl's voice who he heard, she now lives in the building because her grandmother had the apartment, I think, like above his uncle's, and now they're like enemies though, because he wants to rent this apartment out as sort of like an Airbnb kind of thing. The rest of the building doesn't want him to do that, and so Nora, the girl, she is like trying to thwart his plans to do that. So it's like a rom-com setup with upmarket fiction writing style. It's just very interesting. So anyway, like I said, I think that the titular love at first bit, I didn't think worked totally, but the rest of the book I actually really enjoyed, and I found this to be quite a moving exploration of grief, because Nora is really like processing the loss of her grandmother with whom she was very, very close, and we learn a lot about that. And it's also a lot about found family, because the whole building, like there's a lot of sort of elderly folk in this building, and they all have like their own sense of community. They have like their own poetry night. So I thought that the rest of the story actually worked really, really well. So I did really enjoy this, and I'm very just intrigued to keep reading from Kate Claiborne, because like I said, I just have not read someone who does exactly what she does. Like, she's unique to my reading experience. So those are all the things I've been reading. In terms of what I'm currently reading, I am technically in the middle of the second Magnus Chase book. I think I'm about a third of the way through. So this had been my audio pick, but I was really struggling to get into it. And I was like, I remember enjoying the first audiobook. Why am I struggling with this one so much? Well, I went and looked, and they changed the narrator for the second audiobook. And then there's a different narrator for the third one, which I just think is a weird choice for a series. I don't know. I'm sure maybe there's some logistical reasons why that had to be, but I really enjoyed the first book's audiobook narrator, and the second one I was not into. And if you watch me regularly, you know that I'm actually really not very picky about narrators. Like, I don't really care often or notice very often. This one was noticeable. So anyway, I kind of stalled out with it, even though I was enjoying the story. Like, I think there's some interesting conflict in terms of Sam and Amir. I'm very invested in their betrothal, and Loki is trying to F it up, and like, I'm not here for it. So anyway, I'm into this story. I just think I need to it's been a few days since I've tried to listen to the audiobook, so I'm hoping I can kind of dive back into this at some point. The audiobook I picked up after that, I'm actually very much enjoying, and it is called Fearing the Black Body, and I don't remember who the author is right now. Oh my gosh, it's so good. It's basically kind of like tracing how a lot of our culture's fat phobia is racist, and traces back to narratives about black bodies versus white bodies originating from like the Renaissance era. So it's very interesting. It's not necessarily like the most beautifully written nonfiction work I've ever read, but like the content is so interesting, and it's like very clearly argued and very clearly written. But anyway, I am enjoying the hell out of that. I think it's just very interesting so far, really compelling. And also, I have to give her props, because she has to spend a lot of her time describing like Renaissance portraiture, and I think she does a very good job of using words to describe these like visual paintings, and like I'm having fun looking up the paintings as she's talking about them. So anyway, I'm very much enjoying that. Okay, and when I picked this book up, the dust jacket fell clear off of it. So I technically started Just Us by Claudia Rankine, and I was very tired that night, and I frankly don't remember anything about this. This is a book about race in America, and I have heard great things, but I need to start it over, to be totally honest. So this is gonna be my new nighttime nonfiction pick. But anyway, technically I started this, but I need to start over. And then a few other things. So I've got 3 buddy reads left that I need to make progress on, and I'm frankly thinking these may not all happen, so I'm probably gonna have to prioritize. But Deathless Divide is gonna be my next buddy read with Leanna. Actually, all 3 of these are with Leanna, because apparently like the first half of the year, our TBRs have just been super aligned, so we're just buddy reading a ton of things together. Deathless Divide by Justina Ireland. This is also on my 21 books I want to read in 2021, because it is finishing out the duology that started with Dread Nation, which I absolutely loved, and so I'm very excited to get through and finish the duology with this one. This is alternative history US fantasy with a zombie outbreak that happens right after the Civil War. And now, like when we left off in the first book, they're out west and there's like machinations afoot. And I'm very excited to see where the story goes. So this we are gonna read. We are also buddy reading. I pulled the wrong book. This is Last Argument of Kings. Pretend this says Before They Are Hanged. We are reading the second book in the First Law series. This is her like favorite series, one of her favorite series. So she's already read it, but I am reading through the series for the first time. And I have Before They Are Hanged as audio, so that's what I would like to use to read it. This is the one that I think will be most likely to bleed over into March. I may not finish this in February. And then our book club pick for the Blades and Bodices book club, which me and Bethany have recently joined. It was started by Leanna and Amanda from The Naughty Librarian. We are reading From Blood and Ash by Jennifer L. Armentrout. This is gonna be next weekend's read. It's quite chunky, but I've heard that it just flies by. Like it's a very quick read despite its length. So I'm really excited to tuck into this one. This is a fantasy romance with sort of like a maiden and the bodyguard kind of trope. And I've heard it ends like on a cliffhanger, like this is definitely a series. So we'll figure out if I'm going to continue in the series. Apparently people have very strong feelings about that second book. Not all of them positive, but the consensus seems to be this first one is super good. So there's that. I'm also hoping to get the Soulmate Equation by Christina Lauren as sort of like a light mix-in. This is coming out, I believe, in May. And this is speculative romance, but in a contemporary setting where basically they find a way to match, like to find your soulmate based on your DNA. And it's about the woman who gets matched to the founder of the company. So I'm really excited to get to this one. And then what else in theory have I got going on? So Parker Pine Investigates by Agatha Christie. That is the pick for the Read Christie 2021 initiative from the official Agatha Christie estate this month. And it is also one that I have been wanting to reread before I do my re-ranking of all of the Agatha Christie books, because I did read it back in the day, but I honestly remember very, very little about it. So that is up on the docket for me. The Prison Healer by, I think, Lynette Nani, I want to say is the author. That one I've got up as an arc. It comes out in April. I'm not going to prioritize the arcs that come out in April and May for my reading for the rest of the month, but if I'm in the mood and like can slot them in, I'll do it. It is a YA fantasy with a healer as our main character in a prison, hence the Prison Healer. And I think she is being tasked to heal a queen incite some sort of rebelliousness. So that should be interesting. And then The Intimacy Experiment by Rosie Danon is a contemporary that's coming out in April. And I want to try the author because I heard really, really intriguing things about The Roommate, which was her debut last year. So this is the second book from her. So I'm excited to give her writing a try. And then let's see, is there anything else that I'm gonna get to? I think everything else I'll probably just keep to mood reading. Oh, no, wait, one more. Faithless in Death by J.D. Robb came out. This is the 52nd book in the In Death series, and these are always like such a treat for me to read. They're usually pretty good as like kind of light palate cleansers, so I see this as one that I will work in when I get a chance. But I always love spending time with Even Rourke, and I'm excited. It's technically also for a project now that I've got my Reading Roberts project going, so this will count for that. Okay, I think that's everything that I've read, what I'm reading right now, and what I might read next. Definitely let me know how your reading month is going. Let me know if any of the books I talked about are particularly intriguing to you. And yeah, I think that will do it for me for now. So if you enjoyed this video, please like, subscribe, follow me on the social medias if you are so inclined. I have all that information listed in the description box below, and I think that will do it. I hope you are having an absolutely lovely day today, and I will just talk to you soon. Bye!